In the past, you had learned just how difficult it was to succeed in sales. On one occasion, while trying to sell preserved flower accessories for the science club, his efforts were met with disappointment, and he failed to sell most of his products. Defeated and disheartened, he couldn't help but feel sorry for himself as he trudged back to the science club room. To his surprise, when he arrived, a girl he had never met before was waiting for him. Himari, a fellow club member. Unlike him, she had remained in the main store and had somehow managed to sell the products he couldn't. She handed him an envelope of money, which he accepted, though he avoided meeting her eyes. He became visibly flustered, unable to handle the presence of a pretty girl. Curious, Himari questioned him about the flower-selling activity, noting that it wasn't part of their official club duties. Yu explained that he had convinced their advisor to allow it as a personal project. Reluctantly, he opened up about his dream of becoming a flower accessory maker, an ambition that went against his parents' wishes. Determined to prove him wrong, he had set a goal to sell 100 accessories during the school festival. Suddenly, Himari burst into laughter. She joked that any parent would be against such a reckless life plan, but she acknowledged his determination. Observing that he still had a long way to go, she decided then and there to help him. Though she didn't reveal their strategy, she promised to handle the marketing herself. That moment marked the beginning of Yu and Himari's unexpected friendship. 2 years have passed since that day, and Himari and Yu remain the closest of friends. Himari continues to use her natural charm and popularity to promote Yu's handcrafted flower accessories, helping his small business steadily grow. What started as a simple school project has now become a home-based operation. This afternoon after class, he sits in the science lab, his usual workspace, carefully laying out newly preserved flowers, their colors vibrant under the soft light. As he begins making them into accessories, a sense of contentment settles over him. He's grateful for the calmness of this life, for being able to create what he loves in peace. People, like his sister, often tell him he's too introverted, but he sees it as a gift. His reserved nature grants him the focus and solitude needed for his craft. Deep in concentration, he doesn't notice when Himari sneaks up behind him until she suddenly leaps onto his back. He lightly scolds her since she disturbs his concentration. Himari refuses, complaining that she's been sitting there for over an hour, completely ignored while he obsessively tinkers with flower petals. With an eager gaze, she urges him to call it a day and spend some time with her. He hesitates, but eventually admits that he's been thinking about the cultural festival lately, the one from 2 years ago that started everything. So much has changed since then, but the bond between them has only grown stronger. After some gentle teasing and her usual persistence, Himari finally convinces him to pack up early and walk home together. A memory from 2 years ago drifts into Yu's mind. It was shortly after they had managed to sell all the flower accessories during the festival. Yu had finally asked Himari why she had gone so far to help him. Without hesitation, Himari confessed that she genuinely enjoyed accessories and simply wanted to sell them. She also admitted with a sheepish smile that part of her motivation was to earn the necklace Yu had given her as a thank you gift. With a playful glint in her eyes, she declared that she would continue supporting him and promoting his creations. She even revealed, half-teasing, that she had been spying on him during his work sessions, watching as he carefully crafted each piece and even witnessing the moments he grew emotional while plucking flowers from the garden. At first, Himari admitted she had only intended to buy a choker from him and leave it at that. But after hearing his story and seeing his passion, something changed. She told him she had made a wish to her older brother on his behalf, though she refused to say what it was. Then, without warning, she asked Yu for his eyes. Startled, Yu dropped his burger and stared at her, completely bewildered. She caught the burger, took a bite, and quickly clarified that what she meant was she loved how his eyes sparkled when he worked on his creations. She wanted to be the only one to see that side of him. With a grin, she vowed to help sell as many accessories as she could and boldly expressed her desire to become his best friend. Wordlessly, Yu leaned over and took a bite from the burger in her hand, marking their unusual partnership. In the present, Yu and Himari stop by a cozy sushi restaurant tucked away in a quiet part of town. As they share a meal, their conversation turns to Himari's future. She's been receiving multiple scouting offers, but she continues to turn them down. Her reason is always the same. She wants to stay by Yu's side and keep promoting his flower accessory business. Over the years, a lighthearted joke has taken root between them. If Yu fails to turn his modest home-based shop into a full-fledged physical store, then he'll have to marry her. It began as playful teasing, but it has gone on for so long that even Himari's older brother Hibari has grown fond of Yu, often treating him like family. As they eat, the topic shifts toward relationships. Himari points out how Yu's inability to date stems from their unusual closeness, while she, despite maintaining their odd friendship, has still managed to date casually. She admits that none of those relationships meant much to her, and she never truly sought romance. Still, she's aware that if she continues to avoid settling down, her parents might eventually arrange a marriage for her, most likely with someone significantly older. The thought seems to weigh on Yu, and Himari, noticing this, pretends to continue the conversation seriously before suddenly laughing it off. Later that evening, back in his room, Yu refocuses on an order that had come in. As he reads through the details, something about it stirs a memory to resurface. At one point in the past, Himari had confided in Yu that she struggled to develop romantic feelings for anyone. Yu admitted that his unusual hobby of making flower accessories had often driven girls away. Hearing that, she proposed they make a pact. If they were both still single by the time they turned 30, they should live together and get married, just to avoid ending up alone. But Yu had quickly refused. Instead of being offended, Himari had burst into laughter and leaped onto his back in excitement. Snapping out of his brief trip down memory lane, Yu drops by his sister's place to deliver something she had asked for. Before leaving, he gently reminds her about the flowers he requested earlier, ones he needs to complete a few more accessory orders. The next day at school, Himari finds herself approached by an upperclassman. He casually asks about her relationship with Yu, clearly curious about their closeness. Rather than entertain the question, she gives him no direct answer, choosing to walk away from him. As she stares out the window, the sunlight warming her face, she begins to reflect. Over the years, she's always claimed they were just best friends, but even she can't deny the strange fluttering in her chest that occasionally surfaces when she's around Yu. Still, she knows herself well enough to understand that if she had truly wanted something romantic, she would have acted on it long ago. She smiles softly at the thought of a future where Yu were to fall in love with someone else someday, hoping that person will accept her too, because more than anything, she doesn't want their friendship to end. Elsewhere, Yu stands by a vending machine, buying a carton of milk. As he considers buying one for Himari, the sound of footsteps catches his attention. A girl with long black hair walks up beside him to purchase a drink, and for a moment, he finds himself completely mesmerized. Her quiet beauty catches him off guard, and his mind instinctively starts imagining which accessories might suit her best. Then he notices something surprising. She's wearing one of his bracelets. It's a design that didn't sell well, only Himari had bought one, and the other had sold during the cultural festival years ago. Before he can process the thought, the bracelet snaps, and the girl crouches down, visibly upset as she tries to fix it. Without hesitation, Yu offers to fix it, but the girl reacts defensively around him. Embarrassed by his own impulsiveness, he quickly retreats, sprinting down the hall and silently swearing never to tell Himari about this moment. During class, instead of focusing on the lecture being given at the front of the room, Yu and Himari are trading text messages. Yu has reluctantly told her about the incident by the vending machine, and ever since, Himari has been overly excited, flooding his inbox with teasing comments and far-fetched theories about this mysterious girl. Eventually, Yu stops replying, deciding he's had enough of her overactive imagination. This, however, only fuels Himari's determination to get a response. When Yu finally turns to scold her under his breath, the teacher suddenly calls him, having only noticed him raise his voice, none of Himari's antics. Later that day in the science lab, Himari tries to lift his mood by casually pointing out that he should be proud. Someone out there had kept one of his earliest accessories for years. Before he can respond, the lab door opens and Shinji walks in looking for Yu. Himari immediately picks up on his presence, and without warning, the atmosphere shifts into something more competitive. Though neither of them says it outright, a strange tension rises as both Shinji and Himari act like they're trying to stake their claim over Yu. Confused by the sudden shift, Yu watches in disinterest. He knows they had a brief relationship back in middle school, but the chill between them now feels deeper than simple exes being awkward. Then Himari leans out the lab window and starts yelling to the school grounds below, loudly accusing Shinji of dating 5 girls at once during middle school, along with several other outrageous claims. Shinji retaliates without hesitation, shouting his own version of events, stating that Himari treated their relationship like a game born out of boredom. Trying to shut down the chaos, Yu interrupts and finally asks why Shinji came looking for him. Shinji reveals that Yu had unknowingly bumped into his friend Rian, whom he affectionately calls Rin, and that she's been trying to work up the nerve to ask if you can fix her bracelet. As Rian steps out from the hallway, Himari immediately recognizes her. Later, during lunch, Yu and Himari sit together discussing the coincidence. Rian turns out to be one of Himari's childhood friends, and Himari suspects the bracelet may have been passed down by Rian's older sister, who once bought and helped promote Yu's accessories during the second day of the cultural festival. After school, the three meet again so Yu can examine the broken bracelet. As he studies it carefully, Rian suddenly misreads his silence as a sign that he doesn't know how to fix it. Her expression shifts to one of intense frustration, and she leans in close, her presence sharp and intimidating. Himari casually pulls out a compact mirror and shows Rian what she looks like mid-glare. Shocked by her own appearance, Rian stumbles backward in surprise and ends up falling onto the ground. Trying to recover her composure, she quickly demands that Yu fix the bracelet anyway. Himari, grinning, teases her for falling on her own, poking fun at how clumsy she still is. The moment sparks another memory for Rian, of how Himari used to make fun of her during their childhood. Yu's gaze shifts between the two girls in front of him. For someone who had initially appeared elegant and refined, Rian's sudden burst of aggression takes him completely by surprise. What unsettles him more is how effortlessly she restrains Himari, who actually seems slightly intimidated for the first time in their friendship. Just when it looks like things are calming down, Himari tests her luck by grabbing Rian's chest. This, unsurprisingly, pushes Rian over the edge. She begins flailing Himari around in irritation. Eventually, Himari concedes defeat and is forced to sit on a table. With the room slightly calmer, Yu turns his attention to Rian's bracelet, and the two begin discussing the best way to repair it. As Yu begins his work, he slips into a familiar focused trance, shutting out the world around him. Himari takes advantage of this and makes her way back to the table, trying to convince Rian to join her in playing a prank on Yu. By the time Yu finishes the repair, he finally notices that something feels off. The girls are giggling quietly, and when he reaches his head, he notices that it's tied up in several bows. Flustered, he scrambles to remove them, while Himari and Rian double over with laughter. Once the laughter dies down, Rian slips the bracelet onto her wrist. Her expression softens as she admires the restored accessory, offering Yu a rare, sincere smile. As Yu walks home, Rian and Himari head toward the bus stop. Curious, Rian questions Himari about her relationship with Yu. Himari gives her usual answer. They've been friends since middle school and brushes it off lightly. She teases Rian about possibly liking him, which Rian quickly denies, but her tone lacks conviction. While waiting for the bus, Rian brings up the idea of receiving an anonymous confession to Himari. Curious how Himari would react to such a scenario. She admits that ever since receiving the bracelet years ago, she's felt a quiet affection for its unknown creator. But now, after seeing Yu work, she's convinced he might be the one behind all the accessories, including the one Himari wears with such pride online. Himari turns to face away from her, a sudden tightness in her chest. For the first time, the world she had built around her quiet bond with Yu feels like it is shattering. One morning, Yu is having breakfast and wonders how he is now talking to another girl besides Himari. His sister walks in and immediately notices that Yu seems more fatigued than usual, raising her concern. He decides to tell her about his unusual encounter with Rian. Sakura points out that having Rian as a new friend might be good for inspiration. She notes that all of his recent accessories have started to look similar and blames it on the fact that he's only been making pieces with Himari in mind. With Rian around, Yu might get a stroke of inspiration and create new and exciting designs. Yu tries to argue that his sales have been doing well, but Sakura counters that he hasn't had a single repeat customer. As Yu gets up to leave, she reminds him of the promise he made: if he fails to grow his flower accessory business, he'll have to take over the family convenience store and marry Himari. During class, Yu can't stop thinking about what his sister said. He realizes she might have a point. His shop doesn't have any repeat customers. He is so lost in thought that he doesn't notice Himari glancing at him. In the hallway, Shinji confronts Rian about her encounter with Yu, offering to help her win Yu's heart, but Rian refuses to reveal anything. Just then, Himari spots them and approaches, quickly getting into another argument with Shinji. They only stop when some girls from the tennis club approach to ask for Shinji's help. When he leaves, Himari takes the opportunity to speak to Rian in private, making Rian a bit uneasy about what the conversation might be. Meanwhile, Yu is watering the flowers in the school garden when Himari jumps on his back. She says she noticed how distracted he was during class and wants to know what's going on. Yu tells her about his plan to change the theme for his next batch of accessories. He's thinking of exploring romance and rejection. This amuses Himari, who starts slapping his back playfully, finding it funny that Yu, of all people, would focus on romance. Yu shares more about his conversation with Sakura, and Himari agrees. It might be a good idea to finally consider things from a buyer's perspective instead of just making what he personally likes. Yu is surprised to see how excited Himari seems about the new theme, considering she often says she can't feel romantic emotions. Himari counters that she's popular and loved by many boys, so between the two of them, she clearly has more experience in the romance department. Yu decides to test her and asks what Himari really knows about the concept of love. Without hesitation, Himari says that love is the desire to be physically intimate with someone. Yu argues that her definition sounds more like lust, but Himari counters that such feelings often stem from love. Curious, Yu presses her to explain further, admitting he doesn't fully understand the difference between love and lust. Himari says lust can be born from love, then throws the question back at him if he has a certain type of girl he has desires for. Before Yu can process the question, Himari begins describing Rian's characteristics and asks if he's ever felt the urge to kiss her. Yu looks at her, unamused by her sudden attempt at playing matchmaker. Himari quickly clarifies that she's only suggesting Rian as a source of inspiration. It might be easier, she claims, to create accessories with a person in mind. Yu admits he's never had the urge to kiss any girl. Himari then casually suggests he try kissing her to finally understand what it feels like. The idea flusters Yu, and he asks if Himari even sees him as a man. With complete confidence, Himari answers that she only sees him as a best friend. She insists that it will be a valuable experience for them both, especially since neither of them has kissed anyone before. Just as Yu starts to see the logic in her reasoning, he realizes that kissing between friends is probably inappropriate. Seeing the hesitation in his expression, Himari grabs his hand, demonstrating how easy it is for them to be physically close. Yu immediately feels that even holding hands is already crossing a line. Still, Himari pushes her idea further and suggests they go through with a kiss. She begins pulling him down, slowly closing the distance. Yu starts to panic, not expecting her to actually go through with it. As she inches closer, he can't help but notice how beautiful she is. He closes his eyes, bracing himself for the kiss, but nothing happens as he doesn't feel her lips. He opens his eyes to find Himari barely holding back her laughter before bursting out laughing. Yu crouches down, disappointed in himself for even thinking she was serious. Realizing she may have pushed too far, Himari promises to make it up to him. She tells him to keep his Saturday free but refuses to reveal what she has planned. When Saturday arrives, Yu is surprised to be picked up by Himari's brother, Hibari, who cheerfully admits he's missed Yu terribly. Yu thanks him for the sushi the other day and casually mentions his older sister, someone Hibari knows since they were schoolmates back in the day. Hibari reveals that Sakura was very popular in school and known for being a genius. The comment makes Yu feel a bit self-conscious about how different he and Sakura are in terms of academics and social standing. Noticing Yu's unease, Hibari tries to reassure him, saying that Yu has his own unique talents that he should be proud of. He even jokingly invites Yu to just stay at their house forever and focus on making accessories full-time. When Hibari drops Yu off, he expresses disappointment at not being able to spend more time with him. He drives off in a rush, saying he needs to head back to work. Yu stares after the disappearing car, quietly realizing how spontaneous both Hibari and Himari are. Just then, Himari appears and immediately criticizes Yu's outfit, saying it isn't fashionable. Yu takes a moment to scan Himari's look and notices how much effort she puts into looking cute every day. He defends himself, saying that Hibari was too excited and didn't give him time to change into something better. Himari then drops the surprise that she brought Rian along to hang out with them today. They stop at a cafe to grab a meal, but Yu finds it difficult to talk to Rian, who seems distant again. Himari tries to break the awkwardness by bringing up Yu's next accessory photo shoot. She excitedly suggests that Rian be his new model and reveals that Rian has already agreed to do it. As they begin to eat, Himari explains that Rian wants to repay Yu for fixing her bracelet. So she took the initiative and suggested Rian model for him. She adds that the shoot will be held in Rian's family's sweet shop, which visibly shocks Rian. Without a word, Rian excuses herself to call her mom and ask for permission. Later, they visit an accessory shop where Yu is visibly thrilled by the flower-themed accessories. Himari manages to get his attention, and together they look at different colors and designs that might suit Rian. Yu suddenly realizes that he might be acting a little too comfortably around Rian and backs off slightly, apologizing. Himari immediately teases him, which amuses Rian, watching the two of them interact so naturally. Eventually, the group begins trying different accessories on Rian. Himari suggests that Yu be the one to put the red necklace around Rian's neck. Yu does what he's told without much thought, assuming Rian, like Himari, doesn't see him as a man. But as he clasps the red necklace around her neck, he notices a shift. Rian stiffens slightly, her breath hitching, subtle signs of fluster that don't go unnoticed by Himari. Sensing an opportunity, she casually points out how revealing Rian's clothes are, sparking immediate embarrassment. Rian, red-faced and annoyed, reacts by lifting Himari into the air in retaliation. Their next stop is the flower section of the shop, where they browse for balloons to inspire Yu's new accessory line. Rian's attention is quickly drawn to the violet wisteria blossoms. There's a faraway look in her eyes as she gazes at them, murmuring something about how beautiful they are and how they remind her of something from her past. Yu catches the wistfulness in her tone and glances at her with curiosity, but when Yu questions her, Rian brushes off the moment and offers no further explanation. Himari soon calls out, asking if he was done picking flowers and suggesting that he should consider using roses. Yu, however, disagrees. He feels that roses wouldn't suit Rian. Her beauty, he thinks, more honest, subtle but striking. He says as much, and the words hang in the air. Realizing what he's just admitted, he tries to play it off, but Himari beams with satisfaction before heading off to buy drinks, leaving Rian and Yu alone. As she makes her way to a cafe, she quietly decides that if someone were to win Yu's heart, she wouldn't mind if it were Rian. With Himari gone, Yu takes the opportunity to apologize for earlier, unsure if he made Rian uncomfortable. Their conversation drifts toward how Rian and Himari became friends. Yu was surprised to learn that Himari wasn't always outgoing. It was Rian who approached her first and asked to be friends. The revelation changes the way Yu sees Rian, adding depth to her quiet demeanor. Rian mentions wanting to use large flowers for accessories, and Yu agrees, saying her looks could easily carry such bold designs. When he realizes he's just called her beautiful out loud, he awkwardly backtracks and Rian turns away, trying to hide the color rising in her cheeks. To ease the moment, Yu begins scanning the shop again, his eyes landing on a group of tulips. He lights up, declaring them perfect for what Rian has in mind. He talks animatedly, praising their vivid colors and well-maintained petals. As he speaks, he doesn't notice how closely Rian is listening. He eventually realizes he's been rambling and assumes he's boring her. In a rush to wrap things up, he grabs the tulips and moves toward the counter. But just before he can walk away, Rian gently tugs at his sleeve. He pauses, surprised by the quiet plea in her touch to continue his story on how he loves flowers. Something about her stillness, her expression, strikes him. Rian reminds him of it. There's a pull to her presence, something that lingers and draws him in the longer he looks. Before he knows it, he's speaking again about how he's come to realize his passion for flowers. During an outing with his family at a botanical garden, Yu ended up getting separated from them. He roamed the winding paths alone, hoping to find familiar faces, when he stumbled upon a young girl who appeared just as lost as he was. Deciding to help each other, they began searching for their parents together, wandering through rows of blooming plants. As they walked, the girl became captivated by a vibrant red flower, her eyes lighting up with delight. Moved by her reaction, Yu decided to pay for the flower so she could take it home. She clutched it carefully, promising to wear it every day. Eventually, they found the girl's parents. Yu watched her leave, the image of her smiling with the red bloom etched in his memory. Though he knew the flower would eventually wither, the moment stayed with him. That day marked the beginning of his love for flowers. Yu admits that after that day, he became determined to preserve the beauty of flowers, hoping to one day protect moments like that from fading. Deep down, he wishes that the girl might somehow find his work again. Rian suddenly asks if the flower had been a hibiscus. She confesses that she had fallen in love with it that day and recalls how Yu told her the color suited her. That single comment made her feel beautiful, even with the hair she used to hate. Yu stares at her stunned. Gratitude and disbelief fill him as he realizes that the girl from the garden is Rian. The inspiration behind everything he has built stands before him, smiling the same way she did years ago, with the same hibiscus bloom mirrored in her expression. As the sun dips below the horizon, Yu becomes concerned about Himari, wondering if she got home safely. Rian suggests they exchange numbers before parting ways. Meanwhile, Himari lies in bed, restless. The image of Rian and Yu sharing a quiet moment in the flower shop replays in her mind. She knows she should be happy for them. They look perfect together. But a growing unease settles in her chest. The look in Yu's eyes when he gazes at Rian lingers, and it unsettles her more than she expected. One morning, Yu drags his feet on the way to school, his thoughts consumed by the revelation that Ryun was his first love all along. The realization has left him restless, unable to sleep over the weekend as he replays the memory again and again. He had attempted to reach out to Himori through text, but she repeatedly left his messages on read, offering no explanation. Out of nowhere, Himori greets him with a cheerful good morning, her tone bright but her body language reserved. She keeps a deliberate distance from him, which immediately strikes you as odd. He tries to get to the bottom of her strange behavior, pushing her for answers about her sudden disappearance on Saturday and her refusal to respond to his messages. Himari dodges his questions effortlessly, brushing him off with a flimsy excuse about maintaining a 3-meter distance from him. Before you can challenge her any further, Ryun appears beside him, offering her soft greeting. She waits expectantly and Yu returns the gesture, albeit distractedly. Her expression changes subtly, sensing that something weighs on his mind. Following his silent gesture toward the lockers, Ryun quickly locates Himari, trying to hide behind them. Ryun calls out that she brought cookies, successfully luring Himari out from her hiding spot. Himari rushes over, only to be effortlessly grabbed by the head by Ryun, who scolds her with practiced ease. As the three of them walk together toward their classrooms, Yu listens in silence to the way Ryun nags Himari. He briefly wonders how the two maintain their friendship with such different temperaments. Before they separate, Ryun hands Yu a small, carefully wrapped pack of her homemade cookies. He stares at them in surprise, noting the intricate designs and delicate attention to detail. When she leaves to enter her classroom, he finds himself watching her retreating figure, his cheeks growing warm without warning. Himari immediately picks up on his reaction and doesn't waste the opportunity to tease him about his growing affection toward Ryu. She keeps it up until their lunch break on the rooftop, finally poking fun at the moment you realize Ryun was the girl from his past. Irritated, Yu pins her lightly against the rooftop railings, demanding to know why she was eavesdropping and what's behind her bizarre behavior lately. He pauses when he notices her flustered expression, something he rarely sees on her. She calls him strange, but Yu retorts that she's the one acting odd, especially with her constant assumptions that he and Ryun share mutual feelings. He insists that she's making things more complicated between them. Without another word, Himari shoves a cold drink into his hands and steps away, telling him to cool off. Yu watches her leave, the embarrassed look on her face lingering in his mind. As he sips from the drink, a cooling sensation soothes his body, but his thoughts remain fixated on Himari. For the first time in a long time, he quietly admits to himself that she looked cute. Later that day at the school's science lab, Ryun is fascinated as the vibrant petals begin to pale into pure white, captivated by the transformation. She wonders aloud how he plans to restore their original color for the accessory. He tells Ryun that he'll begin recoloring them soon, having saved the original pigments to ensure they retain their vibrant hue. It's a tedious part of the process, but he explains that it's necessary to bring out the natural beauty of the flower while maintaining the essence of his former self. Out of the corner of his eye, he notices Himari trying to bother him as usual. He snaps, calling her out and telling her to stop distracting him. Himari refuses with a grin, clearly amused by his frustration. With an exasperated sigh, Yu turns to Ryun and asks if she can restrain Himari. Ryun obliges, gripping Himari's shoulders and handing her a drink, one of her favorites, which keeps her still for a moment. Yu thanks Ryun, explaining that he usually takes much longer on his projects because Himari always manages to throw him off. Himari feigns as if she has just been insulted, shooting back that he actually enjoys her bothering him and even used to flirt back before Ryun started joining them. Yu grums and scolds her for being shameless in front of Ryun, but Himari only doubles down, suggesting they go back to acting normal and resume their infamous pretend kiss. Yu stares at her in horror, his panic rising. He jumps up and grips her shoulders tightly, calling her strange for even bringing that up. But Himari, always quick-witted, traps in with her words, making him accidentally admit that the incident had indeed happened. Ryun slowly rises from her seat and excuses herself without looking at either of them. Yu stares at the door in disbelief and turns sharply to Himari, ready to scold her, but she's already rolling on the table, laughing uncontrollably. She calls out for him to help her up, and with a sigh of resignation, Yu moves toward her, ready to pull her up. Instead of taking his hand, Himari tugs him down so he falls over her. With a mischievous gleam in her eyes, she suggests that they should kiss, since Ryun already believes it happened anyway. Besides, she reminds him they once made a pact to be each other's companions by the time they turn 30 if neither of them has found love. Yu flushes, insisting that the pact was something she made up on her own. But Himari's tone softens as she tells him she was always serious about it. She suggests that maybe sharing a kiss could help them understand the feeling of love better, for the sake of their accessory making. Yu stares at her stunned, his heart beats faster, not just from embarrassment, but from the confusing mix of emotions swelling inside him. Slowly, he begins to close the distance. But before anything can happen, he hears a sudden click, the unmistakable sound of phone camera. He blinks, turning his head, and sees Himari holding her phone at an angle, snapping a photo of him leaning in. Before he can react, she bursts into laughter, clutching her stomach and babbling about how funny it would be to prank Ryun with the picture. Yu stares at the candid shot of the almost kiss, feeling equal parts embarrassed and betrayed. Himari grins, completely unbothered. He helps her up, this time successfully, and returns to his seat without another word. Himari turns away from him, her smile slowly fading. She murmurs under her breath, barely audible, calling him an idiot for not going through with it. But Yu, too wrapped up in his own confusion, doesn't hear her. When he asks what she just said, Himari immediately fires off a series of playful insults about his obsession with flowers and how weird his hobbies are. Before he can retaliate, she leaves the room, waving him off like nothing happened. Yu collapses on his seat, confused over Himari's actions, unaware that Himari, despite her teasing, is just as lost in her feelings as he is. The next day, Shinji pulls Yu aside during a break and suggests they head to the school garden. As Yu begins watering the flower beds, Shinji wastes no time getting to the point. He casually asks how things are going between Yu and Ryun, pointing out that Ryun already confessed. Yu pauses, confused since he does not remember a confession. He remembers the moment they realized they were each other's first love, but that never felt like a proper confession. They hadn't talked about dating, hadn't even touched the idea of becoming something more. Shinji raises an eyebrow and argues that it counts, especially since Ryun's been making him cookies, a clear sign she's interested. Yu shrugs, unsure. He admits that his feelings are still a bit tangled, not because he doesn't like Ryun, but because everything feels overwhelming lately. He mentions that Himari has been acting strange too. Clingy as always, but lately she's been bolder, more forceful. This catches Shinji's attention. He hums thoughtfully, deciding it might be worth looking deeper into Himari's sudden shift in behavior. Later that day, the trio, Yu, Ryun, and Himari, gathers in the science lab to inspect the preserved tulips. The colors are vibrant, the petals crisp and intact. Ryun is in awe, complimenting Yu on how real they still look. Himari, as expected, turns the moment into another opportunity to make fun of Yu's flirting skills. Yu ignores the remark and hands Ryun a set of prototype accessories, asking her to try them on for test shots. As Ryun adjusts them and poses, Himari sneaks up beside Yu and whispers that he should tell Ryun to pose more suggestively. Yu sighs, scolds her lightly, and refocuses on the task at hand. It bothers him that no matter what he tries, the poses look too similar to Himari's, and he is unable to capture Ryun for her own beauty. He studies Ryun carefully, noticing her old bracelet, the same one from years ago. Inspiration hits him. He quickly approaches Ryun and blurts out that he wants a photo of her as the queen of the night, referencing the alluring and mysterious flower she once reminded him of. Ryun blinks, clearly confused. Yu hesitates, ready to dismiss the idea, but Himari steps in. She waves Yu back, telling him to keep his phone ready. Then she leans in close to Ryun, whispering something in her ear. Whatever she says causes Ryun to look at Yu with wide eyes, her expression soft and vulnerable. In that moment, Yu sees it, that fleeting beauty he's been trying to capture, so he snaps the photo. The shot is perfect, but he notices something off. Ryun still seems unsettled. He quietly asks her what's wrong, but before she can answer, Himari cuts in with a laugh, brushing off the moment as a joke and teasing Ryun for believing her whisper. Ryun pounces on Himari in outrage. Once the chaos dies down, Yu confirms that the emotion in the photo is exactly what he wants the new accessory line to reflect: elegance, mystery, and warmth. On the walk home, Yu finally confronts Himari, asking her what she whispered to Ryun. She refuses to say, leaving Yu in the dark once again. Suddenly, Himari brings up a request. She asks Yu if he can make her a similar tulip accessory for when she eventually falls in love. Yu pauses, taken off guard, and glances at her, noticing how the setting sun reflects softly on her features. For a moment, he takes the chance to admire her. He has always known she was beautiful, but she looks breathtaking to him today. His eyes briefly land on the choker she still wears, the one he gave her a long time ago. A promise comes back to him, one where he swore to protect her, even if she never asked him to. With a playful smile, he brushes off her request, teasing her by reminding her that they're just best friends. That night, Himari finds herself unable to sleep. No matter how much she tosses and turns, her thoughts are filled with the image of Yu and Ryun. She tries to push it away, but the way Yu looked at Ryun in the garden lingers in her mind. Gentle, soft, affectionate. She realizes she wanted that look to be meant for her. Maybe, deep down, she's always wanted that. Looking back, she's always clung to him. She played the role of the best friend, the teasing one, the loud one, the one who always stuck by him no matter what. But now, that same title feels like it's starting to hurt her. She doesn't want to lose him entirely, so she quietly vows to pull herself back, just enough so she can stay by his side, even if it means staying in the shadows. A few days later, Shinji, Himari, Yu, and Ryun gather at a sushi house to celebrate the completion of Yu's new accessory. Himari and Shinji bicker as usual, while Yu tries to keep things calm between them. Yu eventually brings out his newest piece, a beautiful red hairpin designed with the tulip they preserved. When he gives it to Ryun, Himari quickly jumps in, masking her discomfort with fake excitement. Shinji observes her carefully, and an idea sparks in his mind. To test something, Shinji suggests that Yu should clip the accessory on Ryun himself. Yu hesitates but eventually gives in, carefully placing the hairpin on her hair. Ryun beams, her eyes sparkling as she admires it. Himari and Shinji look away, both thinking the moment should have been private, not something they had to witness. Shinji pushes it even further, suggesting Ryun become Yu's permanent model. That sets Himari off, since it means Ryun will be working closely with Yu. She agrees with the idea being good for sales, but argues that Ryun might not be ready for the pressure that comes with attention. This starts a full-on argument between her and Shinji. Himari insists she's only looking out for Ryun, but Shinji accuses her of being scared that Ryun is taking a spot she doesn't want to admit she wants. Himari looks at Yu, silently asking him to say something in her defense. But Yu doesn't see the issue. He's fine with Ryun modeling for him, especially if Ryun herself is okay with it. He even points out that it was Himari's idea in the first place, then calls out her recent behavior, saying it's been bothersome. What he doesn't say out loud is how much harder things are getting now that his feelings for her are slowly shifting. He needs Ryun to stay grounded, especially when Himari is making things so complicated. Himari, now completely overwhelmed, looks around for her yogurt to calm herself down. When she realizes it's gone, she finally snaps. She pours the last of her drink on Yu's head and stands up, declaring that their friendship is over, causing both her and Yu to scream at each other. At school, after the incident in the restaurant, Yu is clearly bothered by Himari's decision to end their friendship. Without thinking, he accidentally buys 2 yogurt drinks from the vending machine out of pure habit, only realizing it once both drinks have been purchased. He enters the classroom and quietly takes his usual seat next to Himari, who doesn't acknowledge his presence. They glance at each other briefly before a smug smile appears on her face, and Yu assumes it's because she's confident he misses her. Deciding to play along, he opens a bag of snacks, one of the many they used to share, hoping it might bait her into saying something. Himari immediately turns her head toward the familiar crinkle of the snack bag but forces herself to resist the temptation. When she still doesn't respond, Yu ups the stakes and says, loud enough for her to hear, that they'll no longer be opening a shop together. This statement catches her off guard, and her smile drops almost instantly as tears start to form in the corners of her eyes. She buries her face into her arms on the desk, and their classmates begin to look over, most of them casting sympathetic glances at Himari, assuming she's the victim in whatever falling out has happened between them. Yu grows anxious, unsure of how to clear his name, but his phone suddenly vibrates with a message from Himari. When he opens it, he's met with a photo of a signed contract from a talent agency thanking her for accepting their offer, along with a short note saying she's transferring at the end of the month. The news hits him like a brick, and without thinking, he stands up from his seat and demands an explanation, which only causes Himari to laugh as she breaks her earlier act. Without giving him a chance to respond, she bolts out of the classroom and Yu chases after her, only to lose sight of her completely. He runs into Ryun, who's equally concerned after receiving a similar message from Himari saying she's leaving for Tokyo. They both agree that Himari owes them a proper explanation and devise a plan to lure her out using her favorite drink and some homemade cookies. They set everything up on a bench and hide in the bushes nearby, waiting. Himari eventually reveals herself, mocking their amateur plan but still reaches out for the snacks. Yu jumps out from hiding, declaring that her appearance still means the trap worked since she came out and took the bait. But as soon as he accuses her of craving his attention again, Himari dashes off, yelling for them to leave her alone. Yu immediately chases her and eventually catches up. Frustrated and overwhelmed, Himari slaps him across the face without offering any explanation, which forces Yu to finally list everything she's done lately that's been unfair to him. He wonders aloud if their friendship meant so little to her that she could discard it so easily. Himari reacts with more anger than he expects, almost violently, and when he instinctively tries to hold her back, his arm brushes against her choker. The pendant slips off and falls to the ground. In the chaos, Yu accidentally steps on it. Himari quickly drops to the ground to inspect the damage, clearly upset to see that the pendant is now cracked and slightly broken. At that moment, Yu finally decides that whatever they had, whatever she was doing, it wasn't worth chasing anymore. Yu accuses Himari of using him, of pretending to care just to get her hands on the accessories he creates, and in return, she throws the same accusation back at him, claiming he only ever saw her as a convenient assistant, someone who just happened to be around when he needed help. Tears suddenly spill from her eyes as she voices what's been eating away at her, the ease with which he gave Ryun the role of main model, despite having once promised that the title was only meant for her. She admits that while a part of her wants Yu and Ryun to be happy, she simply can't stand being treated like a backup plan, like someone who will always come second. In a burst of frustration, Himari tears the rest of her choker from around her neck and slams it onto the ground, announcing her intention to move somewhere where she'll finally be seen for her true worth. Later that day, Yu finds himself alone on a bench in the garden as he thinks about Himari. Shinji spots him and joins him, telling him that Ryun has been worried and hands him a drink. Taking the opportunity, Yu asks him directly why he pushed for Ryun to be the main model. Shinji answers simply, he wanted Ryun to finally get Yu's full attention. He explains that relationships shift with time, and if Himari continues to cling to Yu without clarity, it could become a real problem for all of them. Yu doesn't quite understand the issue, insisting that Himari is just his best friend. Shinji only gives him a knowing smile and tells him that if that were truly the case, he wouldn't be this affected. If Himari really meant nothing more than friendship to him, he would have dated Ryun already. He advises Yu to sort out his feelings soon, before Himari disappears from his life for good. Though Shinji had hoped to put distance between Himari and Yu, he's also aware that if Himari leaves for Tokyo, Ryun might end up blaming herself. Yu quietly compliments Shinji for being a good friend, especially to Ryun. Once alone again, Yu inspects the broken pendant in his hand, unsure of what to do next. That evening, he decides to message Himari, hoping to finally understand her sudden decision to leave. Himari responds, but her words feel distant, as if she's already made up her mind. As he reflects on everything, Yu recalls how it was Himari who believed in his work first, how none of this would have even started without her. He types out a simple apology, offering to cave in just this once if it might convince her to stay. But when no response comes, Yu realizes something important. Himari will be fine on her own. It's him and his business that will struggle without her. Even so, he resolves to press forward, to work harder than before, even if it means doing it alone. On the other end of the phone, Himari is practically rolling in glee. The whole story about moving to Tokyo had been a ruse, a carefully crafted plan designed to make you realize just how much he needed her. For a moment, her smile falters as the image of her broken choker flashes in her mind, and she feels a sting of tears welling up in her eyes. She shakes her head, refusing to dwell on it. With a dramatic grunt, she punches her stuffed toy in the face as if punishing it for making her feel weak. She convinces herself that you can always make her another accessory, an even better one, and this time, he'll do more than just that. She'll have him run errands, grovel a little, maybe even beg. Her mischievous thoughts spiral, and she even considers asking him to help her practice kissing. She stares at her phone, convinced that tomorrow Yu will surely be on his knees, pleading for her forgiveness and desperate to win her back. But the next day comes, and Yu doesn't say a word. No apology, no dramatic gesture. In fact, he avoids her entirely, going through the day as if nothing happened. Himari is puzzled, though not yet panicked. She tells herself that maybe Yu just needs some time to mourn the loss of their friendship before crawling back. As evening comes, she waits, expecting a call or at least a message. But when the hours drag on, her phone remains silent. She starts checking social media for any clue of his whereabouts. That's when she sees it. Ryun smiling in a photo with someone cropped out of frame, but Himari immediately recognizes the arm beside her to be Yu's. A few more days pass. Yu still hasn't contacted her. The product launch has already happened, and it's clear from the online posts that the collection is doing well. Ryun looks stunning as the main model, and Himari can't help but remember Yu once complaining that she was becoming too clingy. She tries to brush off the sting of jealousy as she wonders about her place in Yu's world, because it feels like she's truly being replaced. Re-entering the house, she finds her older brother, Hibari, already in the kitchen. He offers her dinner and watches as she moves sluggishly to serve herself. Noticing the gloom hanging over her, he finally speaks up, casually noting that she's been radiating less Aura lately. Unable to lie to him, Himari eventually spills everything. Hibari listens in growing disbelief, and when she finishes, he snaps, furious that she's basically been emotionally blackmailing you. He reminds her of the favor she asked from him when they were in middle school, how she begged him to talk to Ryun's older sister to help them sell 200 handmade flower accessories. He had endured the awkwardness and humiliation because when he saw Yu's work, he recognized something sincere and passionate in it. He agreed to help, but only if Himari promised that she'd never stop supporting Yu's dreams. Now, Hibari accuses her of being cold-hearted, of walking away from Yu just because things didn't go her way. Himari, overwhelmed and emotional, finally confesses that the reason she's been acting this way is because she's fallen in love with Yu, and she doesn't know what to do with those feelings. Hibari softens at her tearful admission, but his words remain firm. He tells her that she needs to make a choice. Will she fight for Yu because she truly loves him, or will she continue trying to be number one by force? Himari stares at her brother, confused by his words, feeling as if pursuing Yu and fighting to be his number one are the same thing. Hibari, seeing her uncertainty, softens his tone. He explains that in his job, he often has to make sacrifices, choosing difficult, thankless paths for the sake of the city's prosperity. People resent him for the decisions he makes, but he continues facing hardship day after day because he believes in a bigger purpose. He wishes that Himari will also learn to see the bigger picture, something greater than just herself, and to work for it every day so that one day she can feel truly fulfilled. The next day, Himari is still muddled by Hibari's words. Even so, she knows she can't just abandon the ruse now after keeping up for so long. Trying to take a small step forward, she messages Yu, asking if they can meet. To her surprise and relief, Yu responds almost immediately, saying he wants to talk to her as well. They decide to meet at the science lab. When Himari arrives, her heart races painfully in her chest. She finds it too difficult to start, so she shyly asks Yu to tell the story first. Without hesitation, Yu approaches her, intending to hand her something. But by accident, he gives her an envelope containing a letter of withdrawal from school. Yu confesses that the letter isn't for her, but admits that he has decided to follow her to Tokyo. He explains that somewhere along the way, he realized that Himari is the most important person to him, even if it means leaving behind his dreams of making accessories. Even if he has to find a completely different way to survive, it doesn't matter. No flower accessory is worth making if Himari isn't there to see it. However, he hesitates, wondering aloud if he will be enough for her when he can no longer create beautiful things for her. Himari thinks he is more than enough, but the words stick in her throat. Instead, images of the time together, watching silly videos, eating meals, traveling to nearby towns, flood her mind. All the mundane, everyday moments she shares with Yu are the very reasons she has fallen for him. Without thinking, she grabs the letter from his hands, tears it up, and stuffs it into her pocket. She reassures him that she isn't going to Tokyo anymore. Yu, concerned, tries to convince her to still chase her own dreams, stepping closer and grabbing her by the shoulders to emphasize his point. His sudden closeness startles her so much that she accidentally spills her drink, the liquid coating her mouth and chin. Embarrassed, she quickly pushes him away, unwilling to let her first kiss happen, while she is sticky with juice. Regaining her composure, she cheerfully declares that they can just go back to how things were. She adds that she doesn't mind Ryun modeling anymore, but she still wants to continue being his main model moving forward. Curious, she then asks what he had actually intended to give her. Yu hands her a similar envelope containing a repaired choker, with a new addition, a yellow ring adorned with a preserved anemone flaccida, a smaller version of the flower he originally used. Yu explains it is a friendship ring for his best friend and the person most important to him. Playfully, Himari tells him to turn around, then pounces onto his back, demanding that he put the ring on her. As she admires it, she notices a tiny seed embedded alongside the flower. When she asked about it, Yu explains it is a seed. Himari finds the addition adorable and teasingly reminds him of their old promise, that if they are both still single at 30, they will marry each other. Afterward, Himari heads to the girls' bathroom, a little disappointed that they remain only best friends, but grateful she can still stay by his side. As she steps out, her friends rush toward her, showing her a photo they found of Yu, their faces filled with curiosity. Meanwhile, back in the science lab, Yu quietly texts a friend thanking him for helping procure the rare flower and seed. Unknown to Himari, the seed is actually from a purple tulip, symbolizing a hidden confession of love he isn't brave enough to give her yet, terrified that if he does, he might lose her forever. When Yu was younger, he had always been drawn to beautiful things, especially flowers. The delicate process of preserving them had become an outlet for him. Even in class, he would discreetly hide a book about flowers, reading during lectures. This quiet fascination stayed with him well into middle school, where he remained a solitary figure, finding comfort in the quiet corners of classrooms, where he buried his nose in a book about flowers. But just as he thought he had mastered the art of staying unnoticed, Himari entered his life. He remembered with unusual clarity the day she approached and refused to take no for an answer when she asked him to have lunch with her. Though he initially insisted on being alone, she had handed him a drink and practically pulled him along, undeterred by his hesitation. Some of her friends saw them together and appeared visibly disappointed, likely because they had expected her to spend time with him instead. Himari exchanged lighthearted banter with them, her tone playful and teasing, while Yu lingered nearby, unsure of how to navigate the sudden attention. Before he could retreat, she had taken his arm and led him to the science lab to have their usual lunch. As they settled into their meal, she confronted him about his recent distance, a question that caught him off guard and left him choking on his food. He hadn't intended to avoid her, but when classmates began approaching him, urging him to stop spending time with her for her own social good, he had quietly withdrawn, believing it was in her best interest. Himari took out her phone and revealed a string of messages from one of the boys who had encouraged her to drop him. Despite already being in a relationship, the boy had confessed to wanting to be with her and even offered to end things with his girlfriend to pursue her. There was also a message from the girlfriend accusing Himari of stealing her boyfriend. She explained that while the popular crowd might appear attractive from afar, it was rarely sincere. She admitted that she felt exhausted by the social games and would rather spend her time in peace, simply watching you work. At that moment, she reached for his hand and made him promise they would stay best friends forever, and more importantly, that he would never fall in love with her so that their bond could remain untainted. Though flustered, he gave his word, and just as he did, she turned away briefly, only to turn back with a mischievous smile and the soft sound of an audio recording of their promise. Utterly mortified, Yu chased her through the lab in protest until they were out of breath. As they rested, she casually mentioned the idea of pretending to be a couple just to keep persistent boys at bay. Yu refused without hesitation, not wanting to become entangled in any more school gossip. But Himari laced her fingers with his and jokingly proposed that they date for real, though he would see through the jest and continue to turn down the offer. In the present day, Yu finds himself hopelessly in love with Himari, still haunted by the thought that the perfect chance to confess his feelings slipped through his fingers the day he gave her the ring. As he spots her waving at him outside the building, a warm smile on her face, he tries to play it cool. Instead, his awkward attempt at being casual prompts Himari to react in disgust. She teases him, saying he looks like he has a stomachache, and their usual rhythm as best friends kicks in, bantering as they head to class. As they walk, Yu's eyes drift to her hands, and he notices the ring isn't on her finger. Himari tilts her head and taps the choker around her neck. It's now looped through her belt like a pendant. Yu blinks, momentarily stunned by how effortlessly she makes it look good. He lightly suggests he could make a new one, since the choker is clearly aging, but Himari immediately declines his offer since the belt is special. Yu leans in for a better look but pulls back just as quickly when he realizes he's staring a little too long. In an attempt to break the tension, Himari suddenly jokes that if he's that obsessed with her, maybe they should just date for real. So Yu, trying to match her tone and test the waters, throws back a fake confession. He tells her he likes her, and then adds he's kidding. Himari's face doesn't change, but her silence is sharp. She sips her drink slowly, eyes on him, and calmly tells him his delivery was obviously fake. Before he can respond, she claims she just remembered something and excuses herself. Alone in the girls' bathroom, Himari grips the sink. Water splashes her cheeks as she tries to steady her breathing. For a second, she believed him in her heart and almost spilled everything, her feelings, even the recent message from Ryun. Meanwhile, Yu was on his way to class when a student calls him to the faculty office. At lunch, Himari learns that Yu had turned in his midterm paper nearly blank, having fallen asleep during the exam after staying up too late crafting Ryun's accessory. The school had granted him a chance by allowing him a retake this Sunday. Wanting to support him, Himari gives him her favorite drink and offers to help him study. She also brings up that people have found out he's the artist behind the preserved flower accessories. To her surprise, Yu doesn't seem bothered. His indifference unsettles her. She warns him that once word spreads, girls will swarm him, all wanting to model, and knowing Yu, he'll say yes, just like he did with Ryun. Seeing how overwhelmed Himari becomes, Yu firmly places a hand on her shoulder to steady her. He assures her that she'll always be his #1 model. The sincerity in his eyes, paired with their sudden closeness, makes Himari's heart skip, only to lose her emotions and slap him out of sheer embarrassment. He scolds her for treating him so harshly, but Himari only snaps back that it's his fault for being so painfully cheesy. Before their bickering can continue, Yu's gaze drifts toward the entrance leading to the hallway and spots Ryun watching them with unreadable intensity. Something feels off. Usually, Himari would brighten up at the sight of Ryun and wave or call out, but this time she remains tense and quiet. Sensing the tension, Yu decides to break the silence and greets Ryun himself, trying to gauge how long she's been standing there. Ryun answers coldly, admitting she's been there since the moment Himari voiced her worry about other girls surrounding Yu. She quickly excuses herself, walking away before either of them can respond. Later in class, neither of them manages to focus on the lecture. Himari's mind spins with thoughts she can't voice aloud. In frustration, she silently vows to keep Yu by her side, even if that means remaining nothing more than his best friend. She then has an idea that the person responsible for leaking Yu's identity is actually Shin. They meet on the rooftop and Shin doesn't deny it and confesses that he leaked the information to give Ryun a better chance at winning Yu's heart. Himari responds sharply, claiming that even if Ryun cuts her off, it doesn't change the fact that Yu will remain her best friend. But Shin isn't buying it. He accuses Himari of lying to herself, saying her feelings for Yu are too obvious to hide. She had her chance when Yu was ready to give up everything and go to Tokyo with her, but she didn't take it. Now he believes Ryun will win because at least Ryun acts on what she wants. Without giving away his true plan, he leaves Himari. After school, Himari and Yu board the bus home together, their conversation shifting to study plans for his upcoming exam. They're headed to Himari's house to study with the help of Hibari. Yu admits he hasn't been there in a year, still haunted by how extravagant her family's welcome had been the first time. As they arrive, Himari casually mentions they're alone. Yu immediately flicks her forehead, calling her out for lying. He knows Hibari wouldn't leave without helping him study. But Himari clarifies that Hibari isn't home, he just sent the materials ahead. Yu processes this for a moment, excitement creeping in, only to be shattered the second. He steps inside and Hibari greets him with a party streamer, clearly excited that Yu is back at their home. Yu glares at Himari as she doubles over in laughter by the doorway, clearly amused by her own trick. Once the commotion settles, they move to the living room where a towering stack of books awaits like an ominous mountain. Hibari sits in full tutor mode, reading glasses perched on his nose and an eager glint in his eye that fills Yu with dread. Yu eyes the stack warily and finally asks why Hibari isn't at work. Without missing a beat, Hibari reassures him that his staff is fully capable of handling things in his absence. Today, his only duty is to make sure Yu succeeds. He tells Yu he's willing to do anything it takes to support him in his dream to create beautiful flower accessories. Grades shouldn't be the thing that gets in the way, and he's committed to helping Yu master everything he needs to know before he graduates, so he can return to his passion without fear. Yu flinches at the sheer intensity in Hibari's gaze and quickly turns to Himari, begging for help. But when he looks to the doorway, she's already halfway through closing it, her expression apologetic, though it quickly shifts to a cheeky grin as she wishes him luck with his special study session. Hours pass and night falls before the session finally ends. Himari escorts Yu to the bath, thanking him for helping her brother blow off steam. Apparently, Hibari had been swamped with work lately, and she knew her brother had a soft spot for Yu, making him the perfect sacrificial lamb. Her laugh rings out like wind chimes, and he finds himself watching her a little too closely. Wearing a light blue yukata, she looks effortlessly graceful, and Yu's mind starts drifting toward what kind of accessory would best match her. But before his imagination can wander further, Himari catches his stare and quickly teases him about it. When they reach the baths, Yu is taken aback by how much it resembles an actual hot spring. As Himari exits to give him privacy, he begins to undress, shaking away any questionable thoughts. He's just about to relax when her voice suddenly calls out from behind the door, announcing that she's coming back in. Panicked, Yu scrambles to cover himself. She teasingly offers to wash his back as an apology for abandoning him earlier. His mirrors spike as he points out how inappropriate that is between opposite genders, but Himari dismisses the concern, claiming that since they're best friends, it's not weird at all. Then, with a mischievous smile, she accuses him of liking her. Deciding to turn the tables, Yu musters his courage and confidently asks her to go ahead and wash his back. Her face turns bright red, but to his shock, she agrees, only saying she'll need a moment to prepare. She shuts the door and Yu sits himself down, trying to figure out whether she's actually serious. Moments later, he hears someone re-enter the room. Bracing himself, he shuts his eyes as he feels someone begin to scrub his back. Curious, he peeks and lets out a horrified shriek when he finds Hibari instead of Himari. Hearing his scream, Himari erupts into laughter just outside the door. Yu sighs in defeat, telling Hibari the joke wasn't funny in the slightest. Hibari apologizes but asks if this kind of teasing is normal between him and Himari. Yu flusters, scrambling to explain their friendship, but Hibari waves it off. Instead, he expresses relief that the two have reconciled. Then, almost absent-mindedly, he mutters that he was worried Himari wouldn't be able to apologize properly. That confuses Yu. He was the one who apologized, not her. Sensing something is off, Hibari suddenly stands and demands the full story. As Yu begins explaining, Hibari's expression darkens. Meanwhile, Himari rolls on her bed, still cackling with delight. Her laughter comes to an abrupt halt when she hears a knock. Thinking it's Yu, she brightens and calls for him to enter, but her smile fades when Hibari steps in, eyes gleaming ominously, inviting his sister for a talk. The next morning, Hibari drives them to school, offering Yu study pointers the entire way. Yu steals a glance at Himari, who is weeping silently in the backseat. Hibari, unbothered, continues giving Yu advice as if nothing is wrong. When they arrive, Himari wipes her tears and mutters that she's glad Hibari is gone. Ryun then appears behind them and greets only Yu with a cold good morning. He tries to explain that he stayed over for tutoring, worried about his grades. At this, something changes in Ryun. Her eyes flare with determination, and without hesitation, she announces that she'll be joining them tonight. During class, Yu still has a hard time wrapping his head around the fact that Ryun had invited herself to his study session with Himari. Ryun sends him a message asking what she should bring, and Yu tries to confirm if she's actually serious. It turns out Ryun is completely set on joining them, even going as far as messaging both her mom and Himari to ask for permission. Himari, noticing Yu texting, guesses it's Ryun from the blush on his face. She teases him through a message that informs him that they can't use her place for the study session anymore. Himari doesn't want her at home for being the little sister of someone he claims to hate. As they begin brainstorming new venues for the study session, Himari questions why Yu seems so energized when it comes to Ryun. She teases him about looking forward to a study date and even jokes about a repeat of the incident from the previous night. This flusters Yu, who instinctively scolds her during class, resulting in the wrath of their teacher, already irritated by Yu needing supplementary classes. During break, while walking through the halls, Yu is approached by two girls who ask him about his flower accessory business. They request custom accessories, which makes Yu nervous since he still hasn't figured out how to handle situations like this. Fortunately, Shinji shows up and asks the girls to leave, claiming he has something important to discuss with Yu. The girls don't resist, especially since they dislike Shinji, and leave while promising to see Yu another time. Meanwhile, Himari meets with Ryun regarding the study session. She feels a little confused by Ryun's actions, especially since she had assumed they were no longer on good terms. When she informs Ryun that they can't hold the session in her place, Ryun seems disappointed. Back in the garden, Yu and Shinji have lunch together. Yu decides to confront him after learning from Himari that Shinji is behind the identity leak. Shinji admits to spreading the information without remorse, stating that he did it so Ryun would have a better shot at winning Yu's affection. Yu pleads with him to stop Ryun from joining the study session, but Shinji is amused. This is the first he's hearing about it. He teases Yu for becoming a playboy, pointing out that both girls who have a romantic interest in him will now be spending the night with him. As Yu tries to get Shinji to take things seriously, Shinji reminds him that the situation is his own doing, especially after the intimate gesture he made by giving Himari the ring in the science lab, something both Shinji and Ryun had witnessed. On his way back to class, Yu runs into Himari, who tells him that they should just hold the study session at his place. Despite Yu's reluctance, especially about hosting both Himari and Ryun overnight, Himari explains that she already told Ryun since she didn't know how to reject her. Himari strikes a cute pose as she pleads once more to use Yu's place for the study session. Yu tries to resist, but he finds her completely adorable and begins to waver. Just then, a student council member calls out to Himari, reminding her about the meeting scheduled after class. Snapping out of his daze, Yu realizes that once again, Himari has left him in a difficult situation, this time alone with Ryun. After school, Yu rushes straight home to make sure the house is presentable. The moment he enters his room, he's shocked by the mess and immediately sets out to clean everything before anyone arrives. By the time he finishes tidying up, the doorbell rings. He hurries to answer it and finds Ryun standing there, looking striking in a well-coordinated outfit and wearing the flower accessory he had made for her not too long ago. He welcomes her inside and explains that it will just be the two of them for a while, as his family is still working at the shop and Himari hasn't arrived yet. As Ryun looks around his room, she notices the lack of flowers. Yu chuckles and reveals the inside of his closet, where a miniature garden is tucked away. He explains that he keeps his flowers hidden there to protect them from Dafuku, their mischievous cat, since some of the plants are harmful to animals. He brings out a small pot of baby sage and tells her that the plant is known for its calming and focusing properties, perfect for helping them study. Ryun is genuinely impressed by Yu's knowledge of plants and his ability to incorporate them into his daily life. Yu suggests they begin studying, and Ryun quickly offers to help, mentioning she's ranked second in their grade. Surprised, Yu admits he didn't realize she was that smart, which prompts him to ask who holds the top rank. Ryu's expression darkens slightly as she answers, Shinji. As the session begins, Yu finds himself struggling to stay focused, especially when his eyes wander to Ryun's chest. Embarrassed, he abruptly excuses himself under the pretense of getting them something to drink. When Yu leaves, Ryun picks up the potted baby sage and gives it a sniff. She then notices Yu's bed. While Yu's preparing tea in the kitchen, his thoughts drift to comparing Himari and Ryun. He begins to hope that Himari shows up soon, but then immediately regrets the thought, realizing that the situation might become even more chaotic with both girls in his house. When he returns with the tea tray, he's surprised to find Ryun sniffing his pillow. The two lock eyes for a brief moment. Silently, they both walk back to the table, settling down across from each other. Just as the tension begins to thicken, Yu quietly calls out her name. Ryun quickly and nervously admits she was curious about the scent on Yu's pillow. Since the baby sage smelled so nice, she couldn't help but notice a similar fragrance coming from the pillow. Yu, doing his best to stay composed, explains that it's likely from the tea he drinks, made from the same plant, and that he accidentally spilled some on his bed recently. Ryu takes a sip and is immediately delighted by both its aroma and taste. Momentarily forgetting her earlier embarrassment, she grabs his pillow again and gives it another sniff, confirming that it does indeed smell the same as the tea. Her candid action makes Yu blush, and his gaze lingers as she relaxes on his bed once more. Then, without warning, Ryu quietly confesses that she loves him. Yu freezes, stunned by the sudden declaration. It brings back memories from the time he and Himari had a falling out. During that period, he had spent most of his time with Ryun, and eventually, Ryun had confessed her feelings for loving him for 7 years. Back then, he had turned her down gently, having realized that his feelings for Himari ran deeper than he initially thought. Yet Ryun hadn't let that rejection affect her. The very next day, she greeted him like nothing had changed, still cheerful and much less reserved from before. In the present, Yu does his best to focus on studying, while Ryun ends up falling asleep on his bed. As the sun begins to set, he tiptoes toward her, intending to wake her before Himari arrives. However, when he gets close, Ryun rolls over and pulls him into her embrace, her arms wrapping around him in her sleep. Just then, the door swings open. Himari and Sakura stand at the entrance, their eyes wide in disbelief at the scene before them. Yu panics, struggling to free himself from Ryun's grip as he stammers out an explanation. Ryun remains blissfully asleep, giggling softly from a pleasant dream. After a moment, she finally stirs awake and quickly apologizes for her actions. Sakura watches the interaction with mild disbelief. She glances at Ryun and remarks that it's hard to believe she's really Kureha's younger sister, given how airheaded she seems. Curious, Yu asks about Ryun's older sister, especially since he'd heard she played a role in promoting his early work. Sakura explains that she, Kureha, and Hibari were once classmates and remain close friends even now. The last time they all saw each other was during New Year's. This shocks Himari, who always thought Ryun's sister was a taboo topic around Hibari. Sakura assures them that as adults, Hibari and Kureha are mature enough to work through their issues and maintain their friendship. Ryun expresses her thanks, admitting she never knew much about her sister's social life and was happy to hear about it. Sakura then casually asks Ryun if she really has a crush on Yu. Seeing both Yu and Ryun go stiff and embarrassed, she lets out a sigh and mutters that Ryun's taste in men is just as bad as her sister's. Once Sakura leaves, he turns to Himari and Ryun, quickly apologizing if his sister's words come off as rude or offensive. While munching on a slice of cake, Himari casually observes that despite Sakura outing Ryun's feelings, neither she nor Yu seemed particularly shaken by the reveal. In fact, they looked more surprised than embarrassed. Yu, not one to hide the truth, shrugs and tells Himari that Ryun has already confessed to him, 3 times in fact. By now, the awkwardness and tension between them had long since dissolved. Himari is left stunned, trying to process everything that had apparently gone on behind her back. Meanwhile, Ryun just smiles gently, watching Himari's reaction with interest. Assuming Yu is still leaving Ryun in suspense, Himari frowns and accuses him of stringing along his first love. Before Himari can go on a full rant, Ryun reaches over and grabs her face to silence her. Smiling with warmth and optimism in her eyes, she looks at Yu and asks if she truly is his first love. Once the moment passes, Yu admits that Ryun was his first love, but he isn't sure if he still loves her now. He confesses that he finds her beautiful but doesn't want to give her an answer it's not genuine. He owes her more than a half-hearted reply. Rather than looking disheartened, she says she'll use what he told her today as material for her next confession. Wanting to steer the conversation elsewhere, Yu quickly asks how the girls are doing, since he sensed some tension earlier in the day. Ryun and Himari exchange glances before admitting that they were supposed to end their friendship. Ryun confesses that she had planned to distance herself from Himari out of hurt, feeling betrayed that Himari, fully aware of her feelings for Yu, was about to take him away to Tokyo. Yu awkwardly admits his own involvement, since he was the one who offered to accompany Himari. But to their surprise, Ryun calmly owns up to overreacting. She reveals that Shinji had talked to her and helped her see things clearly. She realized it wasn't fair to resent Himari when you had prioritized her for the past 7 years. Rather than feeling unappreciated, she decided she would aim to become someone who's important to both of them, without standing in the way of their bond. Both Yu and Himari are a bit confused by her declaration. But Ryun continues, rambling on about how she now admires Himari's determination and wants to contribute just as much. She wants to support both of them, not as a rival, but as a partner. Flattered and touched by her sincerity, Yu and Himari smile and welcome her to their circle. Ryun also shares her hope to use everything she learns with them to improve her family's sweet shop. To mark the formation of their new alliance, the 3 of them huddle together and shout a cheerful call. Later that evening, Hibari arrives to pick up Himari. As he drives her home, he scolds her for letting Ryun into their circle, saying it was careless and emotional. Before responding, Himari reflects on how she had once encouraged Ryun to go for Yu, only to later find herself selfishly wanting his attention. But instead of backing down, she throws the accusation back, pointing out that she knows Hibari is still secretly seeing Kureha despite claiming to hate her. Hibari brushes off the remark and tells her to worry about her own future instead. He accuses her of dragging you down by letting her emotions guide her decisions. He coldly tells her she's replaceable and that she shouldn't get too comfortable in her current place beside you. For a moment, Hibari falls silent. Then, with a serious look, she asks her brother what he expects her to do. Hibari sternly tells her that for starters, she needs to stop lying to you, otherwise, she may lose him forever. Not wanting that to happen, Hibari quickly agrees. Hibari, thinking he's finally gotten through to her, offers to treat her. But his relief turns to exasperation when she asks how honest she really needs to be with Yu. Friday finally arrives and Yu gets perfect marks in all his exams, so the teacher scolds him for not trying hard the first time. The first day of summer finally arrives and Yu is shocked to wake up to the heat. Meanwhile, the girls in their respective homes are excited. It means they can finally switch to their summer uniforms. Yu heads to school, feeling a bit refreshed by the thought that he can now spend more time on his flowers. With exams behind him and Ryun officially part of his team, he no longer has to worry about studying. As he enters the building, Himari is the first to greet him. Knowing how much Yu likes seeing her wear his accessories, she proudly shows off the ring now attached to her choker. Trying to mask his nervousness, Yu sticks to small talk, playing it cool. But by the time they reach the classroom, Himari starts teasing him about his earlier flustered reaction, saying there's no shame in admiring her in her summer uniform. She openly states she's not shy about liking his eyes, so he shouldn't be shy about something so trivial. Yu is stunned by how casually Himari says this and scolds her lightly, warning that people might get the wrong idea about their relationship. When Himari pretends to be innocent, Yu changes his approach and playfully flirts with her instead. To his surprise, Himari acts shy and even leans in as if to kiss him. For a moment, Yu braces himself, but he quickly reminds himself this is probably just another of Himari's pranks. When she flicks his forehead, he's ready and flicks hers right back. Himari groans, complaining that both Yu and Ryun have been countering her jokes lately, and she's not happy about the change. She keeps teasing Yu for being bad at playing the romantic, which makes him drop the act altogether and focus on the upcoming class. After school, Yu considers calling a team meeting. As he and Himari stand near the vending machines, Ryun approaches. Both of them are taken aback. Her summer uniform emphasizes her figure more than expected. His eyes linger a second too long, and Himari notices, staring at him with mild annoyance. She's clearly irritated that she had to pose for him earlier just to get his attention, while Ryun manages it effortlessly. The group agrees to hold it in the garden, and the first item on the agenda is their inventory. Yu explains that the issue is flower preservation. Since they often wither before use, they need to better anticipate their orders to keep the right ones fresh. Himari immediately suggests they put out promotional photos to sell merchandise quickly, but both Yu and Ryun can tell she's mainly eager to reclaim her position as the main model. Just then, Mao and Asumi spot them and hurry over, asking about the proposal from the other day. Yu instantly remembers them as the girls who had asked about accessories. Seeing no harm in helping, he brings them to the science lab, where he shows them a box filled with pieces he's already created. The girls aren't pleased with Yu's offer and explain that they want a custom accessory. This catches Yu off guard and he hesitates, unsure how to respond. Sensing his discomfort, Himari steps in. She firmly tells the girls to be more considerate. Custom accessories take a lot of time, effort, and money to create. She also adds that Yu is the one who designs everything himself and that he won't accept requests he doesn't find beautiful or meaningful. Taken aback by Himari's frankness, Mao and Asumi quickly explain their side. It turns out that Mao's anniversary with her boyfriend is coming up, and she hopes to surprise him with matching accessories to celebrate the occasion. The mention of couple accessories sparks Yu's interest. He sees it as a creative challenge and the kind of project that could elevate his brand. After hearing them out, Yu agrees to the requests and begins listening to their ideas. The brainstorming session, however, leaves him drained. Himari teases him, saying that he needs to get used to customer consultations if he wants to run a business. Meanwhile, Ryun silently observes, taking notes of Yu's expressions and reactions throughout the meeting. Seeing that Yu looks worn out, Himari suggests that they continue refining the ideas while cleaning up their inventory so they can make better use of their time. The next day, during break, Yu meets with Himari and Ryun again to discuss the concept. He proposes using the Japanese cornel flower, which symbolizes maintenance, resilience, and a mature spirit. Himari seems unsure about the choice, saying the meeting sounds more like something suited to an elderly couple. But Yu explains that after meeting Mao and her boyfriend, he wants the design to reflect something grounded and long-lasting. Rather than creating something flashy, he wants to produce a piece that feels meaningful and enduring. The girls appreciate the thought behind it, but remind him that it's still the customer's choice in the end. He needs to run it by them first. The next challenge is pricing. Yu admits that his pieces are on the more expensive side, and he's not sure if Mao will be able to afford the final product. Himari points out that most of his clients are working professionals, not students, which might be a problem if he wants to expand his market. Ryun chimes in, reminding them that since she modeled the last collection, more students have taken an interest in his work. She believes that students are an untapped market, especially now that Yu's identity is public and people are curious about his brand. Although both girls are happy about the shop gaining attention, they can't help but worry about the growing number of female customers. Ryun complains louder than Himari, leading to a brief but gentle moment between them. Trying to steer the conversation back, Himari jokes about needing to keep Yu grounded. Yu agrees that he should be more engaged with customers moving forward. He realizes that his online business could benefit from a more personal, human touch, especially if he wants to continue growing. A few days later, Yu presents preserved Japanese cornel flowers to Mao and her boyfriend. The couple is impressed, having never seen or heard of the flower before. They're delighted by the uniqueness of the piece, as it's something new to them. With the couple's enthusiastic approval, Yu immediately begins measuring them for their custom accessory. Mao's boyfriend admits that he was hesitant at first, unsure about the idea of matching jewelry. But after seeing how happy Mao is and how much she adores Yu's designs, he feels more confident wearing one himself. That evening, Yu works tirelessly to finish the necklaces in time. He pours his energy and focus into the details, determined to make the final pieces as meaningful and high quality as possible. By the next morning, the couple returns and Yu presents the finished products. The necklaces look elegant yet understated, and both Mao and her boyfriend are visibly moved. Word about the custom pieces spreads faster than anyone expects. Within days, students begin showing up at the science lab, asking about personalized accessories. Himari, Yu, and Ryum are surprised by the sudden rush of interest, especially considering the attention came purely through word of mouth. Despite the chaos, they agree it's a good sign. They just need to find a system to manage their time and production better. When one of the custom orders is completed and presented to a girl, she instantly falls in love with the piece. She asks aloud, wondering if her crush will finally fall for her now, since there's a rumor going around. If you wear a Yu accessory, your crush is destined to love you back. Yu and Himari give puzzled looks at the girl, both curious about where the rumor started. But before they can ask, a small crowd of girls floods the lab, all eager to place their own custom orders. Later, during their break, a group gathers to regroup. Himari marvels at how many students are willing to spend on accessories and praises Mao and Asumi for helping spread the word. While she admits the rumor might be a little exaggerated, she's impressed by the impact it's had on their popularity. With renewed energy, the team agrees to keep pushing forward and finish all their current orders. Yu eventually starts working from Hibari and Himari's home. He explains that his cat won't stop interfering with his workspace, making it nearly impossible to concentrate. Himari notices how tired he looks and urges him to take a short rest. She offers to wake him up when Ryun arrives so they can resume working together. To his surprise, she pats her lap, inviting him to lie down. Yu initially hesitates, thinking it's too awkward, but eventually agrees, comforted by the privacy of their space. As he rests on her lap and gazes up at her, Himari leans over him, wearing a mock menacing expression. She accuses him of probably comparing her to Ryun at that moment. Yu tries to explain himself, but Himari pinches his cheeks, teasing him for acting like Shinji when trying to be romantic. After a beat, Yu turns serious and asks for something that's been on his mind. Why she requested a romance-themed accessory in the first place, especially after everything she went through with Shinji. Himari lays back on the floor, staring up the ceiling as she thinks over Yu's question. She says Ryun looked adorable wearing her accessory, and she simply wanted the chance to look just as cute. Yu doesn't respond. A silence falls between them, but it's not uncomfortable. In Yu's mind, her response gives him an odd sense of relief. He's glad that Himari isn't in love with someone else. He wishes she could stay by his side forever, even if they remain nothing more than close friends. But if she were to get a boyfriend, Yu knows things between them could never stay the same. Eventually, Yu dozes off. Himari hears his soft snoring and glances down, slightly amused. She sits up, leaning over to study his face more closely. She notices how much he's changed lately. Maybe it's the influx of orders or the stress of running his growing business. But something about Yu feels different. It worries her, especially since he's been spending more time working and less time just being with her. Still, she reminds herself that he made her a special accessory. That has to mean something. She smiles, convincing herself she must be more important to him than anyone else. Yet the time they spend together feels more fragile now, more fleeting, and that makes her cherish every moment even more. The next day in the cafeteria, the group is discussing how to deliver the latest batch of orders when Shinji suddenly appears. Without hesitation, Himari grabs Yu's arm, holding onto him possessively. Ryun flinches, clearly debating whether to do the same. Shinji, with a smug grin, claims Ryun doesn't need to use cheap tactics to win Yu's heart. Ignoring Himari, he invites Yu to lunch, saying there's something important to discuss about his accessory business. Up on the rooftop, Yu listens quietly as Shinji reveals he was the one who spread the strange rumor about the Yu accessories making people fall in love. Shiji tries to laugh it off, downplaying his involvement, but then he hints at something emotional that may happen soon, something he feels the need to apologize for in advance. Yu grows uneasy. He doesn't fully understand Shinji's motives, but senses something larger at play. Why is Shinji so invested in Ryun's happiness? Shinji doesn't offer a real answer, just a vague comment that he owes her, before leaving Yu alone to finish his lunch. Days later, Yu is summoned to the faculty room. One of the teachers, Mr. Sasaki, pulls out a preserved purple flower accessory and asks Yu if he made it. When Yu confirms, Sasaki informs him that a parent has complained. Apparently, her daughter claimed she had been missold into paying a ridiculous price for the piece. Yu immediately defends himself, explaining that he had gone over the details and pricing with the customer. However, he has no written proof to back up his story. He mentions that Himari has a delivery receipt and a signed order form, but Sasaki questions the legality of the business itself. Yu clarifies that the accessories are part of his family's store and his older sister Sakura is the one handling the legal documentation. Sasaki considers this, knowing Sakura's reputation, and softens slightly. While he believes Yu didn't intend to deceive anyone, he warns that angry parents might not be as understanding. He advises Yu to pause his sales for a while until things settle. When Yu reunites with Himari and Ryu, he shares what happened. Both girls are outraged and want to track down the student who twisted the story. But before they can act, something even worse unfolds. Nearby, a girl who had purchased a Sakura-themed hairpin is mad at the accessory. She had believed that purchasing it would help her win a guy, but her crush had still dumped her. Yu watches in stunned silence as she throws the accessory on the ground and smashes it under her heel. Himari hurries after her and scolds her for disrespecting the handmade piece. Left behind, Yu walks slowly toward the shattered accessory, his heart sinking. He picks up the broken petals and holds them in his hand, a wave of sadness washing over him. Himari's words from long ago echo in his mind about how beautiful things aren't always pure. In that moment, Yu finally understands. No matter how beautiful love is, people's intentions don't always align. He stares at the crushed remains of his creation, and a sickening, hollow feeling creeps into his chest.